So estrogen dominance, well, there's a really what's the word? Divisive topic, actually. Estrogen dominance is becoming more common, and it is the condition of increased estrogen levels relative to progesterone. However, the reason it's divisive, I'm going to talk about why, what causes estrogen dominance. That's what this whole talk's about. But the reason it's divisive is because it's become a bit of a catchphrase, actually. And if you start looking online, you will find quite a lot of what's the word? Kickback about it. A lot of people going, as soon as a practitioner discusses estrogen dominance, run away because they're just after selling you something gimmicky to get more money out of you. There is quite a lot of people who have a real hang up about estrogen dominance. I see where they're coming from, and I think that there has been a lot of misinformation about estrogen dominance, and that's definitely one of the things that we are really passionate about helping people to understand. However, it is a thing. Whichever way we look at it, it is a thing. And as someone who has battled with it from pretty much the age of 15, I definitely know it's a thing. But where I do agree is that estrogen dominance is actually a symptom of a bigger issue. So it's not just like, well, take this pill or just do this one diet and everything's going to get better. We have to look systemically at what is happening in terms of someone's hormones or their lifestyle to see why they have this predilection to estrogen dominance, if it's been something they've had for the majority of their life, or if it's just a blip that they're going through, usually at times like perimenopause. So, do you want to say something?
No, Karen, go.
Oh, so the reasons for estrogen dominance are either we have high estrogen, but we have normal levels of progesterone. So we're going to come on to it, but basically estrogen and progesterone are supposed to track along. Progesterone here, estrogen here. They're supposed to track along. So we're always we have a little bit more estrogen to progesterone, but only very, very minor amounts. However, as soon as that ratio changes, we can start to experience some really, substantial symptoms. So we could have normal progesterone, but the estrogen levels are high, and we're going to go on to why would they be high. We can have normal estrogen and low progesterone. This is actually very, very common, and we have done a big talk on this, the power of progesterone talk. And actually, anything where there's low progesterone, this is something that we are deeply passionate about, breaking the myth around estrogen dominance, because and I'm not going to go into it now because we're going to give the spotlight to estrogen for once, because usually our spotlight is very much on progesterone and how progesterone deficiency or drops in progesterone are usually completely ignored and actually count for a lot of estrogen dominance issues. But that is a whole other talk. That's a whole rabbit hole that we love to go down. And actually, that is not talked about. In fact, the blind spot around low progesterone is so great that progesterone deficiency can't even be called progesterone deficiency. It's called estrogen dominance. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this talk, was to separate out the difference between the two. So you can also have normal estrogen and low progesterone. So high estrogen, low progesterone, normal estrogen, low progesterone, and low estrogen, but even lower still progesterone. So the estrogen is still the dominant sex hormone. The key reasons for why we would have high estrogen to progesterone are things like an overload of xenoestrogens from the environment. It's a really, really big one. In fact, I was talking to a nutritional coach the other day. We were talking about just how for some people it is so incredibly hard to maintain any kind of weight stabilization, even though they might be, working out regularly, even, tracking their food, weighing their food, keeping their carbs low. You know, might even be trying to do keto. But what we could still see is that everything in our environment these days is geared up to causing more estrogen and then more fat gain. So it's a real problem. You know, fat cells create estrogen. Estrogen creates fat cells, so we end up in a spiral. So an awful lot of what we're seeing in the environment in general is contributing to estrogen dominance, and therefore things like weight issues. An underproduction of progesterone. This would be where technically it's progesterone deficiency. There could be issues with how the body breaks down estrogen, and this could be you know, issues with the liver, and again, lots of reasons for that, and issues with how the body excretes oxygen. So that would be the gut.
Estrogen.
What did I say?
Oxygen.
It's gonna be one of those days, isn't it?
All right. Keep
Oh,
swimming,
thanks,
Dory.
thanks. So to test estrogen dominance, a urine or blood test shows both progesterone, showing both progesterone and estrogen is required. And this is where it becomes quite challenging, particularly with the medical model, because there is a reluctance to test progesterone. And so one of the questions is estrogen dominance even the right name? Because it could be anovulation, which is a lack of ovulation. It could be progesterone deficiency, or it could be progesterone, estrogen excess. So we have to have an understanding of all those things so that when someone comes in with all these symptoms, we can then start to think, okay, we're looking at something like estrogen dominance, but I'm actually a little bit more curious because of the health history of progesterone deficiency, or I'm actually really interested around anovulation because of their health history. So then we start to look at what are the themes that are running through their health history that flag, are we talking about progesterone deficiency? Are we talking about estrogen excess? Or are we talking about anovulation?